Leicester 3, West Ham 1. We put this review off by a day, Sloth, just because A, there was so much to dissect, and B, we didn't know whether Julen Lopetegui was actually going to still be in a job come, what was it, Thursday night we're recording this. It's now coming out that Lopetegui is probably going to be in charge of the Wolves game on Monday. So here we are to dissect what was an abysmal showing. One that we probably deserved more from on the balance, but there was just still way too many inconsistencies structurally, way too easy to play through. And we're going to highlight the goals that Leicester scored. And it kind of does re-emphasize just how poor we are out of possession when we're pressing high. And there's just no cohesion between this structure at the moment. And we're going to get into kind of the other moving parts around this game with Todibo, for example. But yeah, if you enjoyed the analysis, even though we lost 3-1, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, as that massively helps us out. But before we get into that, Sloth, let's look at the balance of play, the tail of the tape, as it were. 61% possession, that's got to be up there with probably one of our highest in the league this season. An expected goals of 3.10 to Leicester's 1.67. 31 shots. I don't remember the last time we had 31 shots in a game, to Leicester's 8. 10 shots on target to Leicester 6. But this kind of illustrates it. You know, Leicester 7 big chances to our 5, which again re-emphasizes that it doesn't just mean there's more to the stats than suggests. And these were the lineup, Sloth. Before we get into the breakdown of a very, very early Leicester goal, what did you make of the lineup? Because there were a few changes from Lopetegui. Obviously, Todibo was one of them in the back line. And again, it's come out since why that was. We saw Kufal come in and Emerson drop to the bench. We saw some rotation in midfield with Lucas Paqueta being dropped, as we also called in the preview and wanting to see that. And both Kudus and Ings came straight back in for Antonio and Crescencio Somerville. So was there any surprises with this lineup, that there were A, that many changes, and B, the type of personnel changes that we did see?
I think the big surprise is undoubtedly up top. The fact that Danny Ings has come in is something we've called for on the channel. And I think it would be disingenuous of any West Ham fan to say that that's because Antonio has been... Danny Ings has looked really sharp when he's come on. And I think part of the worry is that we lack severe quality up top. And Danny Ings doesn't necessarily suit how we play regardless. And Antonio has not been pulling up trees. This is a case of a striker coming in because we need to try and mix up the system. It's a real worry. And, you know, I looked at the lineup and I thought, I just don't get any confidence from this. I think Mavropanos at the back, he is the Gattuso meme. You know, how you can go from having an absolutely fantastic performances against Greece, for Greece against England, and then against Arsenal at the Emirates, to completely being brain dead against one of the oldest and most predictable strikers in the league. And that's no disrespect to Jamie Vardy. That is a case of everyone knows how Jamie Vardy plays. So you are being either willfully ignorant, stupid, or incredibly naive to defend how you do. And we know why Mavropanos was brought in now, but I question the key areas of the lineup that are centre-back and up top. I don't particularly think there was much of an issue with the midfield. I think that's probably what most West Ham
personnel-wise,
I think most West Ham fans would have said that Paqueta rightfully, he's rightfully dropped. He didn't deserve to come in. When he came on, again, embarrassingly bad.
Yeah.
But these are a mixture of things that should really worry West Ham fans at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think while everyone looked at that and probably still thought we should get something from this, you know, we should still get 3 points, but maybe it's not going to be an easy game. Well, blinky blimey, I think we have completely and utterly embarrassed ourselves.
Yeah, this is This is a really bad defeat, and we're going to go through the goals now and the key highlights from the games, and show you guys exactly why we are now at a point where we believe there is no comeback for Julen Lopetegui. I've said it so many times. I'll give him around 15 games to implement himself. He's been at the club a very long time now. He's had that full preseason, as we mentioned, and the fact that we're still seeing the same issues crop up game after game after game is an indictment of how he's setting up and coaching this team. So again, it doesn't matter what personnel is on the pitch. We saw a big change in personnel, but it's still the same structure. It's still the same issues. And this was highlighted very, very early on in the game against Leicester for their first goal. So that kind of segues me nicely into that. I mean, talk me through this stuff. I mean, I'm going to just go through it very quickly, but tell me your feelings. This is less than 2 minutes into the game. This is how we're set up right now. And again, I spoke about the mentality of we have to press, we have to be, on the front foot, we have to impose ourselves early on in games, and it's leaving us unstuck. And the difference between the balance between our midfield or frontline pressing and what our defense's reaction to that is exactly the same as it was 6-7 months ago when Lopetegui first walked through the door. And it's not going to change because that we've seen that even when he was coaching likes of Real Madrid, it was the same situation. You'd have your front three and midfield press higher, but the defense doesn't really step up on that. And Alvarez, we've said, hasn't got the discipline to he doesn't personally have the discipline to do this role, but B, I think he's being coached or told to do this type of man-for-man press and follow his man for this situation. And you'll see here, just a couple of frames on there, that's our holding midfielder 1 minute 29 seconds into a football match, running out like a headless chicken. This isn't like a coordinated press, by the way. Look at Ings, stationary. Soler, stationary. Kudus, stationary. Souček, stationary. Bowen, stationary. The back line, stationary. This isn't a coordinated press. This is Alvarez, where I think, A, it's a mentality thing from him personally, but B, I believe that Lopetegui has been telling and instilling this into the players to try and play on the front foot and try and press high and go man for man where possible and close off the space. But we don't do it as a coordinated unit, and it leaves us massively exposed in midfield. This then happens. They play two simple passes. This is the space that Alvarez would have had and would have nullified. This situation never would have occurred. And then the second error occurs, as you mentioned, Mavropanos completely asleep. This happened at Fulham away for their first goal. And it's happened again where, A, the defensive line isn't structured well enough. Look at Mavropanos' positioning here. And as you mentioned before, Jamie Vardy's, he's an old fox. We know exactly what he's going to be doing here. He's going to be looking to get him behind while he's got high amounts of energy, while he's just necked a Red Bull in the tunnel and get him behind you. And that's exactly what he does. Mavropanos isn't alert to it. He then tries to step up with this movement here, but he's not in line with the rest of the defense. If he is, he's offside. It would have been a good line. But again, an individual error from Mavropanos has cost us in this situation. Vardy goes through and very, very simply tucks away the way to finish. So less than 1 minute 30 into the game, we found ourselves 1-0 down, Slough. And again, it's our own doing, and it's our own mentality or coaching that's resulted in this situation. What are your takes on that goal?
Well, there's a lot to break down. I think, first of all, I'm going to have a breakdown, but the wider thoughts are just how poor this coaching is. It's not a case of the players are not quality, and they have got to take a lot of criticism because, as you rightly mentioned, for your six to essentially be chasing out to the wing to put pressure on someone is abysmal from just a basic pressing point of view. It leaves you so exposed. And this is something that we talked about. And, I got a fair bit of criticism for what I said about us against Aston Villa. Antonio and Bowen have to coordinate a press. And what happened? They picked us off on that right side every single time because there was no coordination, there was no cohesion, and there was no communication between either one of them to press onto the ball. And again, here, why on earth is nobody shouting at Alvarez and saying, no, you go back, one of us will press? If Carlos Soler should be the one pressing. And look, Carlos Soler had a tidy game. He is showing that there is definitely a player there. But there is a player and then there is a worker. And I think we are really blurring the lines between a naive and poorly coached setup or tactical setup from Lopetegui. And it is constantly shooting us in the foot. I mentioned Aston Villa because the press is, again, where we get caught out, and it leads to this as a very similar sort of moment where players are out of position based on the fact they're trying to press, as opposed to there's a structure and a system that they're following that has been coached to them. Now, Mavropanos, this is basic defending, and we'll come on to the Kilman goal as well. Again, basic defending. This is abysmal. And you're a professional footballer. You can't even track a man who you know exactly how he's going to play. It's not a case of you're slow. It's not a case of, well, he might be mentally slow based on this performance, but this is a case of a defender being caught in two minds of whether he tries to press and hold a high line, which, if that's the case, if we're persisting with this high line, we have ignored every single performance so far this season. And it is unacceptable from a coaching point of view to still be persisting with it. You know, the wins that we've had recently, Man United and Newcastle, this high line gave their teams multiple chances. Isak in the first half had multiple chances to put us to the sword, all because of this high line that we're trying to play. This is suicidal football. And
you know what it is, Slough, as well? This is 7 months in to a project. This isn't like, it's not, you know, he's come in midweek or it's been, you know, 4-6 weeks. You know, if anyone watched Arsenal, Man United weren't good, but there was very clear structure to how United were playing. Not that it was effective at all. That's not my point, but he's been there less than 7 days, and that's how he's already set up his team. But I mean, look at this stuff. I mean, this was another example of what I was trying to mention before about how there's always this discrepancy between our midfield/forward line pressing and what our defense recognizes and understands to do. And I mean, look at this. This is, if you look at the clock, 13 minutes 55 seconds. This is the current frame. So we've gone up to press. Souček's gone to their holding midfielder, and Carlos Soler's pushed on as well. So they're the two kind of more advanced midfielders. You'd expect Alvarez to be the number 6 here. Look at the space that is left between this frontline press that we're doing, because Leicester are trying to play out from the back here, and the rest of the squad. There's a huge discrepancy between the two. And if I just move it forwards, remember 13:55. So this is 14:07. So what? 12 seconds later, Leicester have kind of reset here. They've played their way around what we were trying to do, but we're still ready to trigger on this press. So we've got Carlos Soler on there, on Ndidi, and we've got Thomas Souček on the other holder, Samare. And this is where we're ready to set off the press. So whether it's Ings or Kudus, if the ball goes to the left or right, we're ready to press. Wan-Bissaka's behind Kudus. You're thinking, okay, this is all right, but where's the rest of the squad if we're going to press? Because it's just out of shot. So you're thinking, okay, hopefully they're just out of shot right now and we're not going to be too exposed. Let me just move it forwards. This was 9 seconds later, where Leicester moved it forwards and backwards, played it sideways, played a couple of passes, and then just fired a ball through to the midfield of Buonanotte, dropping in deep. I've highlighted there Souček and Soler, who were pressing up higher a minute ago. But we've gone into a back five, Slough. Like, we've pressed as a unit, as like 4 or 5 players in the final third of Leicester. But the back five has stayed the same. Alvarez has dropped in to make a back five. It's completely isolated. And how is this allowed to happen? Look at the space he's got to pick up between the halfway line and our defensive line. What is going on? I'm genuinely lost for words with this coaching setup now. I've been very, very lenient towards Lopetegui. I've been very patient with Lopetegui, but that's gone now. I think this is the breaking point for most West Ham fans, including ourselves. You know, well, I'm not speaking for you, Slough, but including myself. I just don't see a way back from that. And how can you continuously get yourself in situations like A, situations like B, where there is just so much space, so much time, and such a lack of understanding or coordination? As I mentioned, 7 months into a project. How does that happen?
I think what's incredibly worrying is that, you know, anyone who genuinely watched the Man United game would have seen how spot on Eric Ten Hag got his tactics. In the first half, you know, they should have been way out of sight. And it should have
7-0
been
up, I think.
it should have been a repeat of the Arsenal game where
Yeah.
essentially they blow us away in the first half and then they just kind of sit back and they go at 60% and pitter patter around the pitch. They don't have to expend much energy because they've already won the game.
Yeah.
We have done basically the same thing to Leicester, where we've gone, okay, we're going to try this system that is incredibly easy to beat. It's not a case of we're well drilled in this matter, which again, as you said, after months in the job is an incredibly worrying thing. It isn't a case of there's a ball that beats every single man and, you know, it's just one of those passes that you can't defend against. It's caught you off guard. They've seen that the defender's on the back foot and they played it through at the perfect moment. This is really easy to defend against. It's really easy to counter in terms of, you know, not allowing it to get to this point. That's all just through basic coaching and setup. And if I was a professional coach, if I was still coaching, you know, a younger side when I used to play for my local side, I'd teach the younger kids after. Obviously, I'm not going to teach them the same drills, but if I kept noticing a pattern, I would then address it in the next training session and go, okay, look, we keep getting beaten by a hoofball over the top because you're quite short because you're kids. We need to address it. We're going to play a lower back line, so there's less chance of that, okay? In this case, we are being beaten because not only are we pressing when we shouldn't be, there is a huge gulf in the midfield and the defense. And this is a case of where we get picked off time and time again. And we mentioned about unsustainable football. Anyone who watched, again, the Manchester United game and the Newcastle game would say that is unsustainable football. A quality side buries all the chances. They bury half the chances they get and they take the points away from us. Leicester, we made Leicester look like a quality side. And I think
that's a really good point as well. Like, number one, Leicester, we mentioned in the preview, statistically the worst team in the Premier League and should have been bottom based on the data that we were looking at. Number two, Ruud van Nistelrooy's been in the door 3 minutes, so it's not like someone's coached this Leicester squad for the last couple of years and had that, you know, consistency over a longer period of time. This was a completely new Leicester outfit and a new approach. So you've got those two things that you're trying to counter.
How did we say that he would set up? You know, we said he'd try and go with a 4-3-3 based system where it's counter-attacking. What did he do? Employed that, and I would say he employed it well. But a competent side doesn't let them have that. A side that is clinical in attack, and, you know, people go, well, we had 30 chances. That's irrelevant when they're half chances. It's irrelevant when they are such low quality chances that I don't think the keeper had to make one class save.
You know what my biggest point from that stuff is? It's not that, oh, we created loads of chances so we deserve to win the game. I think it's because it's not that we created loads of chances. Like, we did create some very good chances, but number two is we conceded a lot of really big chances. It's not like we're creating loads of chances, but also very tight defensively and making sure we've got that, you know, solidity behind us. We might have made a few half decent chances in that first half and got unlucky on a couple of occasions, like you mentioned, and should have probably scored a couple goals, but so should Leicester. Leicester in the I didn't include it here because I just couldn't be bothered to go through it, to be honest. But Leicester had pretty much an identical chance to the first goal that they scored 5 minutes later, where they went through and should have scored, where they beat the offside trap. They had another chance where they played it through in the 20th or 30th minute when they should have scored. And then in the second half, they had an offside goal that was marginally offside. They had another chance that should have gone in. They had seven big chances when we were looking at the stats. This is not sustainable, as you mentioned. Just because we created some good chances and we got pretty unlucky in this game in front of goal we conceded so many chances. You have to look back at the opposite side as well. Like, it's not good enough, and that is the biggest point. It's not sustainable, and we are getting dangerously close to being sucked into this relegation battle. And to be honest, we pretty much are now. We're only 6 points or 5 or 6 points above the relegation zone as things play. If Wolves beat us and do us over on Monday, and then we decide to sack Lopetegui, well, what's the point? We've just lost 3 points on a potential relegation rival, and we find ourselves in very, very dark area. I don't even know what I'm saying. I've lost my trail of thought, but yeah, I didn't include those in the first half just because there was so many instances of it. But this is the main point. Like, this isn't sustainable, and this isn't coaching. This isn't elite level coaching. This is just absurd, and I can't believe the board haven't acted on this. But I'm rambling. I'm going off on a tangent. So let's get back to the matter, Sloth. Second half. Did you think we'd get back into the game? I haven't included the equaliser that should have stood. So should we just touch on that very quickly? Do you think it should have stood, the Souček one?
It's an obvious one. It should have stood. Like, even if I take my West Ham hat off, if Leicester had scored that goal and they had it ruled out, I would have thought that was harsh. It's crap. I don't know what the officials are doing. We saw as well the Arsenal goal last night, chalked off for a very similar thing. I just don't see how they've given themselves another issue that they can be inconsistent on, and I think it's a huge worry that decisions like this are being sent to VAR, and VAR isn't going, come on, pull your finger out, just have a bit of common sense and go, there's no genuine contact. It's a contact sport, but there's no foul there. There's nothing that pushes the threshold of a foul. It's a contact sport. These are all grown men. Like, at what point do you say, grow up and actually, the goalkeepers are the biggest bloody people on the pitch normally, and yet they're like, you cannot tell me that would send you down and make you throw yourself to the ground. It's pathetic. And anyone who's played football, rugby, any sort of contact sport, will tell you that is not enough to make you fall down. And if you are going to say it is, you're a liar.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was never a foul, and also Ndidi, I think it was pushed Souček into the goalkeeper, like, to make the contact happen. So, I mean, it was ludicrous. But in typical West Ham fashion, 2 minutes later, we found ourselves 2-0 down. But again, our own issues and our own tactical setup caused this. And let's go through it, Sloth. Let's dissect it. We're almost there. We're almost through our therapy session. So stick with us if you're watching. This was the first one. So yeah. Again, Leicester playing out from a goal kick situation, and we're trying to press. I mean, it's like a carbon copy of what we saw in the first half when I said about it. Souček and Soler have pressed higher. We've got a massive vacated space behind them where we're not pressing in behind. Leicester play one pass forwards, play a couple passes out wide, and then again, the person in the middle of your shot there, acres of space in midfield. Defense isn't high up enough. There's an inconsistency in the back line there in terms of how they're lining up and the structure. I mean, Kufau in this situation is dropping way too deep. But when the pass is actually played a couple of seconds later, it's actually Kilman that's playing everyone on side, or Mavropanos. I don't actually know which one of them it is. It could have been either of them. They were both very poor, but that's what keeps this on. But again, look at the time and space that midfielder has to play this pass. It is incredible. It is incredible from Lopetegui to allow this to happen every single week. And it continues to happen. And Leicester play one pass across and it's a goal. And we find ourselves 2-0 down in the 60th minute. And to be honest, at this point, I didn't hold much hope out. And I think most West Ham fans at this point were starting to concede the fact that Julen Lopetegui was not going to be in a job much longer. But he's still here. And we still have a big game after this one. But what were your thoughts when that went in, Sloth, and looking at that?
Just, again, diabolical defending. It's a case of there is very clearly something coached, and there is very clearly someone saying we have to try and do this. But it's a case of it being done really, really badly. And it's not something that has been addressed. It's the same sort of goals we're conceding week in, week out. Any competent manager or coach looks at that and goes, do you know what? We're going to address this as many times on the training pitch as we need to until this is fixed and we stop conceding the goals in exactly the same manner. But no, this is just pathetic defending. And I'm pretty sure it was Kilman who dropped deep then, and it's like Mavropanos and Kilman have been told to try and play a pivot of who can be the last defender, so they can have this back line, and then they can just try and drop push forward and play an offside trap. Well, that's not good enough. It may well have worked with Jules Koundé for him at Sevilla. It may well have worked with that sort of player, but it very rarely works when you have 3 other defenders that you have to try and time that perfectly with. And this is a case of insanity. It's someone doing exactly the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It is terrible. And I'm gonna get to the point here. But if you go to the shot where essentially you look at the backwards line and they're on the edge of our area, they've just played the ball through. So what is happening is that we have set up a back line. Now, Carlos Soler is there at the edge of the area. He should be motoring back to try and either cut out the pass or support the defenders.
But also look at who has circled their slough. That's Alvarez, again, going into the back line.
Yeah, and this is obviously something that he's been told to do. But again, it leaves so much room between the attacking midfielders and the back line. So why do we keep persisting with it? Now, if you go to the next slide, if you go to the next one, there's a key issue here. Soler is not picking up anyone. He's there just in case we manage to recycle the possession and he can start to move out. I'm sorry, but the most dangerous thing at the moment is the person with the ball. It's the fact that he can then pick out a completely unmarked man and they can get a shot away. Why is nobody looking to the edge of the area to try and get touch tight to him, to try and make a tackle?
Well, I think it's because we got stretched. And again, we alluded to it here. Look, this is where Souček and Soler are in the first frame, 59-48, and we moved it to here. That's 14 seconds later. They're having to try and track back because of the massive spaces that have been left. But as you say, it's just that this is where the structural side of things is massively causing us issues. And as you say, this is where we should be. We should be able to clear this, and there should be no passing lane whatsoever. We should never be in this situation. But again, it becomes because of that. And, Soler and Souček are massively caught up pitch here, and they're trying to track back in this situation. But again, it's nowhere near good enough. And, at 2-0 down, we've got an absolute mountain to climb. And then we just started throwing the kitchen sink at everything. And, Leicester got their disallowed goal, which was very, very close to being onside. We got away with it, to be honest. But then they made us pay once again. And again, look, this is the 90th minute at 2-0. But how are we just playing with one centre back? What are we doing? There's no thought behind it. It's just get forwards if you can and try and make things happen. And to be fair to Daka, it's a very, very good finish on his left foot. But I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing, Sloth?
This is another case of basic defending. And Kilman's been good. Across the course of the season, he has been good. I don't know if Julen Lopetegui has suddenly worn him down, but this is a case of basic defending, meeting the ball before it bounces. Don't let it bounce. Don't just dilly-dally and let the ball come to you. Go and meet it. Be aggressive. He's in two minds, and he kind of, you can see him. He moves backwards and forwards and then sort of takes onto the back foot. That allows Daka to get stuck in. If Kilman goes, commits, and meets the ball, even if Daka had stuck out a leg, he's got no basis to blow the whistle and give a foul there, because Kilman's got he's got every right to go and meet that ball because he's defending. It is terrible decision making, and it is again a clear case of tactics and coaching not working, because I'm a big fan of Patson Daka, and I knew exactly what was going to happen when he came on. He's been crap for Leicester. Like this isn't, you know, I'm someone who likes him, and he's been crap for Leicester, but you know exactly what you're going to get with him. You know you're going to get someone who's just hanging around the last man and looking to get in there, nick the ball off them and create space, run into space.
Yeah.
Why are we so naive against the most predictable strikers in the league? This is a case of a defender not doing the basics and a team not adequately coached to defend against, again, the most predictable strikers in the league.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And yeah, that was 3-0. I thought that would be it, but we did get one consolation. It's probably the only positive I took from this game is Nicholas Fulkirk obviously came on for the last, 10, 15, 20 minutes, and managed to get himself a goal. Very, very hard to see in this clip. So I've zoomed in a little bit there, but he gets a nice header on Somerville with a nice flick onto him, and he's there to react. And again, it's a small consolation as to what was an extremely disappointing evening at the King Power Stadium. But I guess it is nice to see Fulkirk back and already scoring the goals. But again, a 3-1 defeat to Leicester. Every single goal there is ridiculous. It's shambolic. And especially the first two, it was, again, it very much shows the Lopetegui system. This was the game right here that showed the flaws, because we were playing a game that we were completely expected to win. A Leicester side that have been so poor, playing with a new manager, with a new system, with new ideas still to yet to instill in that team. A team that is pretty much a championship team, a squad. You'd expect it to be in the championship. They should have been on around 9 points going into this game based on the expected data. They've been that poor. They've been worse than West Ham, and we just made them look like a David Moyes counter-attacking team that would give up a few chances but would create chances and be clinical. And we just didn't have the structure behind what Lopetegui is trying to do, and we will never have that. I'm going to put that on the record. That is never going to come. It is not a personnel issue. It is a structural issue with Julen Lopetegui's coaching, and that is going to continue to happen time and time and time again for as long as that coach is still at West Ham and as long as he's still in that managerial position, because this is not going to change. We might beat Wolves on Monday. They're extremely poor. We might get lucky. We might get one of those wins. We might play well. I don't know. But what will happen is this same thing. We'll be sat here in a couple of weeks' time, Sloth, analysing a goal we've conceded, and it'll be exactly the same situation where that midfield is vacated. There's no coordination with the setup we're trying to do, and they'll just be so easy to play through that midfield. I guarantee you there will be a goal that happens like that. So this is no longer a surprise to us. We've done how many match reviews of Lopetegui's time now at West Ham? We've probably seen about 15, 20 examples of goals that have happened because of this. Not even chances created, goals. So this is a very damning statement for Julen Lopetegui. This was not a game we could afford to lose. We said it in the preview. A win might not even be enough. We need to show ourselves and imprint ourselves on this game to have really any chance or hope that things are turning around. And I'm not going to kid myself anymore. This is not going to get better. We need to move on from Julen Lopetegui. That's my final closing statement on this game, Sloth. But over to you, because I'm washing my hands with Julen Lopetegui. I'm done with it.
I certainly cannot blame you. I think we covered this in depth, and I think I got a fair bit of flack the other day because I went on E20, who's a friend of the channel. I went on his little space on Twitter, and I think that it's totally remiss of people to say that on paper we didn't sign well, because we've got good players. There's no question about that. This is a case of coaching clashing with the players you've signed, and also just tactics in general. It's a case of a coach not adjusting to the opposition they're facing. And in 2024, that is just unacceptable. I think there are bigger problems as well. You know, we've not even touched on the issues with Todibo. We'll get into that in another video. But if you looked at the players who came on, players like Antonio, who came on, their effort levels were, quite frankly, unacceptable. Their
Everyone, to be
quality,
honest, Lough,
their
all of them.
quality, misplacing simple passes is unacceptable at this level. You know, every so often you can have a laugh and say, "Oh, he's misplaced a 5-yard pass. Oh, that's a bit daft, isn't it?" Not when it's at this level and this point and you've just come on. It's unacceptable. I think there is a serious issue, not just in terms of the coaching, but also in terms of the application. And when you have your top target for the summer in Kilman committing basic errors, like not even meeting the ball before it bounces, there should be way bigger alarm bells going off for the owners. And unfortunately, we've probably got the worst owners in the Premiership. And you know, it's a case of the tactics are wrong, the application on the pitch is wrong. There is no shining light for Lopetegui at the end of this tunnel. He's going to get sacked. It's just going to be how long can David Sullivan while this out for, while the fans are basically put through the ringer and you get your concessions taken away. You face crap football. You face the board mongrels basically going, "Oh, but he spent lots of money in the summer." It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. The football's crap. The facilities are crap. The stadium experience is crap. And it's making me feel like crap, which is the last thing I want from West Ham. You know, had we gone and lost 2-1, but played well, again, we can look at that and say, okay, there's something there to build from. This hasn't happened. Even when we've even when we've won against sides like Man United and Newcastle, we've all sat here, or we've all been in the group chat and said, there are major issues in this. And I don't see that changing, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, well, we're going to leave it there because I mean, it's just, I think everyone now knows on the channel. You guys have been watching Babbling for a while now. We've been pretty patient with Lopetegui, but this is kind of a critical moment now. This is where we believe that it's done. And as you say, it's not a matter of if he will get sacked. It's a matter of when. Like, we're just delaying the inevitable because there is no way that this is sustainable. We've been through it time and time again, and I'm getting bored of doing these breakdowns. And when we go back and watch the footage, it's so boring seeing the same stuff every week without progression or without improvement and being read of. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm going to end the stream there because this is just
it's clear evidence of a coach who doesn't go back and watch what's happened.
Exactly, and it's just it's disappointing for fans because we are kind of getting drawn into this relegation battle now with a squad that is way too good to be even considered a relegation candidate. So look, a lot of work to do. It'll be interesting to see if/when Lopetegui does get sacked, who we bring in. There's been a lot of rumours, a lot of names being floated around, but until those decisions are made, we're not going to really comment on those because look, there's no point analysing managers that won't be in the job. So if the new manager comes in and is appointed, we'll obviously do some big breakdowns on them for you guys, so you know exactly who they are, how they play, and what we can expect from them, and whether we think it's a successful appointment. But look, Lopetegui's still in the job. He's been given the time to kind of continue into that Wolves game on Monday night, which is again going to be a very big game, and more importantly, a very important 3 points that we need to get regardless of the situation. So that's going to be all for today. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe to the channel for more content that's coming up. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot to discuss over the next few weeks before the January transfer window even opens. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and until the next one,
Come on, you
Come on,
irons.
you Irons.